These Walls Could Talk with Wendy Stuart and Tym Moss. He's going to be here any second. There he is.
Tym Moss, hi.
Perfect. Your timing was perfect. And that's what I love about Tym Moss. His timing is always perfect.
Well, it wasn't today because we got to chatting with our guest today, and he's so fabulous that I forgot I need to go to the bathroom before we go on the air.
But you did everything that you needed to do.
I
And my
did.
God, we
And
are
even washed my
recovering from what a weekend. I mean, New York is just blasting with Pride. We've had such a great time. We had an incredible event called Imperial Pride with the Imperial Court on Sunday. Tim came as a guest.
It was fabulous.
He knows everybody in the court.
She performed and tore the place up.
I tore it up.
It was great.
I tore the place up. And we just had such a really good time. And there was so much love in that room. And of course, everything the Imperial Court does is to fundraise. It was for Hudson Pride and for the Green Leaf organization that finds housing for people that are trans. So always for a good cause. Tim got into his Pride regalia. Had I known, I would have brought my flags. You know, I'm a flagger.
Yeah,
I have my Pride flags. How are you doing?
I'm wonderful.
He hasn't stopped.
I'm trying to deal with everything through this heat.
And
we've had a heat wave here in New York City, and oh my goodness, it has been very challenging.
And we're always on fire Pride Month. But
because this year, since June hit, the city is just starting to open. So everybody is coming out. Everybody is doing events at the last minute. And I'm just kind of running all over borough hopping from the Bronx and Queens and Manhattan and just kind of running around from here to there doing all these events, which I'm grateful for. I really am.
You know what I say? Tim Moss is gay pride.
But I'm not used to running around like this anymore. You know, I've been cooped up for a year in isolation, and boy, I'm just kind of running all over the place and taking naps in between. I do admit it. Yes.
My God, admitted it. My heart is breaking for you. Really great piece of news. You know, we broadcast from PANGEA, and they just received the Historical Village Preservation Award.
Yay.
Really, really well deserved. I was going to try and get Steve Shanigan on camera to just make a quick little cameo, but he is nowhere to be found. And PANGEA has really been adding so much entertainment into their roster, their menu, and, you know, I have to call this out, June 20th. Tim Moss will be here. Please get your tickets.
Yes.
Okay.
Just go to pangea.com and go to the 20th, June 20th, and buy your tickets.
Buy your tickets.
Now you can do there's a GoFundMe here.
Yes.
For PANGEA because they've been so supportive of the arts year after year after year, and then this past year they needed our support, so now it's our turn to support them. So
there you go. One hand washes the other.
Yes,
we are over the moon with today's guest is perfect for Pride Month on many levels. Okay,
right? Simply because things like this, I get to put a Pride shirt on. We get to march. We get to do all of this. Not everyone around the world gets to.
Right. And that is a really good point. He is a journalist, an author, mental health advocate, LGBTQ advocate. And as a speaker, he inspires people to live their lives to the fullest, despite the challenges they may encounter. And he talks about all of this in his book, How I Lost My Mind and Found Myself.
I love that.
Big cultural thing here. He is from the Middle East, in particular Jordan, although he grew up here. But there's many challenges that we are going to talk about today when you are from Middle Eastern background and you're LGBTQ. Without further ado, I'd like you all to meet David Rabadi.
Yay!
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, my God. Thank you so much for being here today, David. How are you doing this Pride Month?
I'm doing great, and your energy is just so explosive. I love it.
Yeah, it's been called a lot of things. Explosive is one of them.
You just make me smile, and I'm like listening to you guys. I can listen to you guys all day. I love the chemistry between the two of you.
Oh, that's sweet.
That's so great. Yeah, we get along. Well, you know what we were talking about earlier, Capricorn, Taurus, right?
Yeah.
Capricorns get along great with Taurus people. So
and you're a Capricorn.
Yeah.
Yes. And my best friend is a Taurus.
Oh,
so it's true.
Go figure.
Go figure. So I do want to jump in before I get into your history is going to be completely fascinating.
Yeah.
But your book, How I Lost My Mind and found myself.
I love that.
Yeah. What was the backstory with this?
Well, that's literally what happened. I lost my mind and
Mhm.
found myself. Like,
Yeah.
for many years, I lived a very suppressed, closeted life. So
Mhm.
I'm Middle Eastern, and being gay in the Middle Eastern culture is very taboo. So I didn't have an example in my life. I didn't have anyone I could turn to talk about feeling
Right.
different or that I identify as gay. So I would suppress it, and there was a lot of guilt and shame that I felt for being gay because the Bible's like, oh, it's taboo, and that, you know, you burn in hell and all this. Could I say bull crap?
You
Yeah,
can
yeah,
say
you're allowed to.
bullshit.
Yeah, we swear on the show. It's a show where you
Like,
can swear.
all this real bullshit that is really not true, but it left me in fear. So I also, on top of being gay and suppressing that, I had bipolar disorder, and I didn't know I had bipolar disorder.
Right.
I
right.
thought it was just I thought everyone experienced weeks of high energy and weeks of low energy. I
Mhm.
thought it was like normal. But it wasn't until I wanted to lose a freaking 10 pounds. So I go to a doctor, and he gives me Adderall. Now, Adderall is an amphetamine, and it's given for people that have ADHD. I didn't know that. I thought it was just an appetite suppressant. So there I go taking it, and I didn't read like the side effects or the warnings. So I would sometimes drink on it, and that made me feel like Superman. I'm like, why do I feel so like invincible now? Like, it was just like, it was crazy. And then I went into a full-blown psychotic episode where I started to hallucinate.
Oh my God.
And in my hallucination, I remember I left my apartment, drove to my parents' place, and I was like, I get home, I get into my parents' house, and my mom's home. I was like, where's my dad? She's like, he's not here. I was like, call him. She's like, what's wrong? I was like, I have to talk to him. I need to let him know I'm gay. And my mom was like, what?
Wait, this is how you came out?
Yeah.
Wow.
So then, like, my dad comes home, and he's like, what's going on? And like, I'm in tears, and I'm like, I couldn't stop crying. I was like, oh, I'm gay. And he's like, what you mean gay? And he had this heavy Arabic accent. And I'm like, when a boy likes a boy. He's like, what you mean? I was like, when two boys kiss. He's like, what you mean? I was like, when two boys have sex.
And you were having a psychotic episode.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So then the crazy thing is I felt like I wanted to speak to my brother now, and my father was just like very he was like so shocked because I was 30 years old and I never said anything about it before. So for them, they never thought anything. And I think they thought if I was gay, I would have told them years earlier, but I was too afraid.
Or maybe even, David, maybe they never thought about gay, you know?
Well, that's what my siblings told me. They go, we never thought of you as being gay. We thought you were just David. You know, you were expressive and you were like, you had a little bit of feminine quality, but we didn't think you were gay. And so now I told my dad. Now I wanted to tell my oldest brother. And my oldest brother was working in New York City at the time. So instead of taking my car, because I'm in a delusional state of mind, I decide to walk. And then I get my iPod and I'm listening to music. And I'm walking. And I walk all the way to the Cross County Parkway.
Get out of here.
And then when I get to the Cross County Parkway, I start walking on the divided line where that keeps the cars in lanes, and all these cars are like jetting by me, beeping the horn, yelling out, "Get out of the road, asshole!" And then this cop comes, like drives up, and he's like, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm walking." He goes, "Where are you walking to?" I said, "To New York City." He goes, "You can't walk there." So I wouldn't stop. So the police officer pulls ahead and then turns the car and blocks me. And then out of nowhere, Channel 12 News was there.
Get out!
5 other cop cars come running, police officers come running. And one officer goes to me, he's like, "You, get on the floor." I said, "No, you get on the floor." So they were like, I guess, I mean, obviously I didn't have anything on me. I wasn't armed, but they were very rough with me. And they tackled me to the ground and put me in the backseat of the car.
That's a whole other thing. Yeah.
So they put me in the backseat of the car, and I remember the officer gets into the car, and before he takes away, he pulls out an Arizona iced tea and opens it and starts drinking. And I'm in the backseat of the car with handcuffs, and I'm like, "You know, you can't drink and drive." He looks at me, and he's like, "This kid." Thank God they didn't. I thought they were gonna drive me to jail. They drove me to the medical center in Valhalla. So
you have a mental illness ward in that medical center in Valhalla.
Yeah, and I think that Mariah Carey was in the same ward I was in because
hey, you keep me company. Good, good to hear.
One of the isolation room where they had me in because it was disturbing everyone. It had like a big butterfly on the wall. I was like, I wonder if that was Mariah putting that on the wall. But so they sent me to the psych ward. So I came out, and then 3 days later, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder.
Wow.
But okay, this was like, we can talk about it now, and the telling of it is unbelievable. But what a blessing, David. You're here.
Yeah,
I know.
You brought out something just from this whole story, and we were listening. You could have, anything could have happened to you.
Absolutely. And there is so much to unpack.
Right.
And this is just the first question we had for you.
Yeah, really.
Yes.
Oh,
it was honestly like, it was like the biggest blessing in life. And it was also one of the hardest things I ever had to deal with, like dealing with mental illness and identifying as LGBT. And it was just like I had all this fear for so long. And then when I finally was out and open and living my truth, I felt this relief, but I still felt for a while the stigma of like mental illness, and I felt embarrassed. I was like, who's gonna want to date me? Who's gonna want to hire me?
I'm undesirable.
I felt like, I had all these thoughts and emotions that within time subside, and I feel like I'm proud to be gay, and I'm proud that I have a mental disorder that I'm taking medication for, and I have treatment, and like I don't want to feel ashamed for that stuff anymore because there's no reason to. And I remember watching my mom take her insulin because she's a diabetic, and I thought to myself, I said, my mom's not ashamed for taking insulin because she has a problem with her sugars. It's a sugar disorder. Why do I have to be ashamed for taking medication for a mood disorder?
Right.
It helps me. It makes me productive. And although it does change you a lot because you're not the same person anymore, because you, like, I was used to having, moods that were like high manic moods and then low depression moods. Now I don't have that anymore. It's a balance.
Right.
Right. So do you feel in a way that your identity of who you are has been adjusted because of that?
I do, because I feel like I used to be so expressive and I was like always the life of the party. And now it's different. Now I can enjoy someone else as the life of the party. I don't really need to be that. Or, and then I think another part of it is because I speak to my friends, I'm 42, and I'm like, maybe it's also age. Like I'm getting older and, you don't have that same energy level as you do in your 20s or your 30s. And so it's definitely been a change for me. And sometimes I question, is it the medication? Is it just me getting older?
Right.
But I think the thing we're talking about, David, you have to be able to function in your life. Yeah. I have an amazing girlfriend that it was the same thing with the psychotic episode. They actually put her in a straitjacket, and she's brilliant and she's so talented. And she now her issue is being addressed, and she's been in enough support groups, and speaking as you do. We need to take this out of the closet. We need to get out there and speak about it, because I got to tell you, a lot of people not only suffer from mental illness, but a lot of people have severe bipolar disorder. Yeah. And it really you're right. The highs are so high, but those lows are a doozy, and it's a really unrealistic state. You can't function.
And in all honesty, it's only been quite recent, at least here in the United States, where mental illness is being addressed much more.
Right.
There used to be such a stigma attached to any type of mental illness.
Yes, that's absolutely true. And when I do my speeches for NAMI, I'm at a place where I want to make mental illness look so good that everyone wants it. Like I don't want that stigma or that shame. And when I go to universities and I speak to the college students, a lot of them I find want to speak to me in private because they want to talk about something they could relate to, or if they think they should maybe get an assessment, but they still feel this kind of embarrassment about it. And I'm like, that really needs to disappear. Like,
I agree.
and that's why I share my story, and in hopes to fighting that stigma and just making people more comfortable in having the conversation, and
Right.
and just getting the help that they need. And I think, like, when I think back about my life before I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, I was like, wow, I probably would have been much more productive if I would have taken care of this illness that I had, but I had no idea I had it because it was just something I thought that everyone had. And now it's like you were saying, Tim, earlier, that now it's become much more of a dialogue.
More acceptance,
and people talking about it more, and more research is being done. And I think that the biggest mistake that anyone could do is be silent and suffer in silence.
Oh my God, nothing worse than that.
You know better than anybody because you did it.
Well, because I can relate to so much of what you're talking about, because I had suffered. I didn't know, but for much of my life, the early part of my life, or the first half of my life, I would say, which developed into an excessive drug and alcohol addiction. And I had no idea until I started rehab and started to get psychological evaluation that I had been suffering from massive depression and anxieties my entire life. I just knew I was in the dark. I knew something was wrong. I didn't know what was there, what was happening to me, but I knew something wasn't right. But I heard what it was, the relief, because now we can do something about it. Now we can address this. And you put it perfectly, because it's like when you're suffering in the silence, it's so painful and so isolating and so dark.
David, I'm curious, when you were in school, did you go to public school, first of all?
Yes, I started off in Catholic school, and then in the 3rd grade, I went to public school.
Did anyone notice, and I'm thinking, you said you're in your 40s, my daughter is in her late 20s. In her school, those kids were all put under a microscope from early on, and she started in public, moved into private. But as a parent, I didn't like it initially, but you know what? It's really amazing, because the very things that we're talking about here, the darkness, the anxiety, the mood swings, and all of that, many schools now are starting to address that, so that the kids are getting the support that they need. Did anyone ever raise any kind of red flag when you were in elementary school?
No. The interesting thing is I was a quiet student. So even though I experienced moods, like shift in moods, I wasn't like I wasn't this like child that was disturbed or that caused mayhem.
Right.
I was very quiet, and then I listened to whatever the teacher was telling me to do. And the interesting thing is, when I switched out of Catholic school into public school, in 1st grade I was left back. So my dad spoke to the principal. He said David is supposed to be in the 4th grade, not the 3rd grade, but he got left back in 1st grade. So the principal decided to skip me into the 4th grade. So there was a whole year I was in the 3rd grade, and it was mid-year. And then I was put into public school 4th grade. So there was a full year of work that I didn't learn.
Wow.
So I was just like having a hard time because I didn't understand what was happening in the class.
Right.
And then the next day they're like, they put me in special ed because they did some kind of test, and they said he's a slow learner. I'm not a slow learner. I didn't learn a whole year of work that was presented to these students.
Right.
I never learned it.
And also social development.
Right.
Yes.
Right. You are saying on so many things here, and thank God a lot of it has changed. I had my daughter, I took her out of public, put her in private, and then had to repeat the year. Why? Because in public, she was the youngest kid in the class. She was bullied, and she was very bright, and I didn't understand why we were having these issues. And then I realized what it was. So when I got to private school, there was no stigma. They're like, she can repeat the grade or she can move ahead. And I'm like, I don't want her to move ahead. I want her, to be comfortable and learn at her own pace. You brought up a good thing. They labeled you as a slow learner. You were anything but. Why didn't anyone look and say, he was put into a grade where he had none of the work. You had none of the background that the other kids have.
It wasn't until the teacher in the fourth grade, at the end of the year, my fourth grade teacher said, David, what grade were you in before you came here? And I said,
that's awful.
I said I was in the third grade. It was already the end of the year, so it was too late to do anything. But then they made me take a test, and I remember doing the test, and I didn't want to answer the question. They asked me a question. If I give you $1, 75 cents, or 50 cents, which one would you pick? Everyone would say the $1 because it's most money, right? I said, I would take the 75 because if I took the $1, I would spend it all. But I was just saying things.
Brilliant.
So I was just saying things, and it was weird, but that also was another thing I had to deal with, because now I was in special ed classes and I had to fight tooth and nail to get out of special ed. And it took like 4 years, but eventually I was out of special ed. And I remember in my biology class, mainstream biology class, I got a 98 on the midterm, and I felt so proud. I felt like, yes,
wow.
like I'm
absolutely.
Like I like this title that they gave me, slow learner. I was like, I'm not no slow learner. Like, you're slow educators. Like,
I love that. Tim, as opposed Tim is from the Midwest. What David's talking about very much happens here in like the tri-state area.
Right.
It is much more forgiving where you came from. They I don't know about now, but that label and that whole special ed thing and everything. They're very quick here to do exactly what you talked about, David, without looking at the child that's in front of them.
Right. They have a tendency to look at the numbers.
Right.
Rather than the child and the human being and the human within.
Right. Wow. What a story. So within all of this, you're growing up, your family is from Jordan. When you were young, at what point did you realize you were gay, and how did that resonate within you in how you dealt with your family, your whole family?
Yeah, well, and also your upbringing and what you were taught, and all of that had to come into play.
Well, when I knew that I was gay, I was around 7 years old, and there was a neighbor that was my age, and he said to me one day, he goes, David, you want to see what I saw my brother do with a girl? I was like, okay. So he had me lay on the bed, and then he came on top of me and started humping me. And I remember enjoying that. So we would do that whenever we had private time together. I would let him hump me, and I was like, well, I like this. But I didn't know was that I was gay, but I just went guys because that's something that, and I also wondered, I was like, why would he do it with a girl? That's boring. But like, I enjoyed it. And then the Middle Eastern culture, and we would go to church every Sunday, and I felt like what I was doing with my next door neighbor was, I started to realize, it's like, oh, that's shameful. That's disgrace to the family. I'm like, oh my God, no one could ever know.
Interesting that it was more the family than go ahead. I'm sorry. That it's just that's an interesting mindset. Yeah.
And you know what's interesting? I've been to Jordan 4 times, but the last time I went was in 2016, and I went for my brother's wedding. My brother's wife's brothers took me out to a bar one night, and I think they all could sense. My brother was like, "Don't tell them you're gay, please, because we're in Jordan and we don't know what's going to happen, and we don't know what they're going to think." But I think my brother's wife's brothers caught on, so they took me to an underground gay bar in Jordan.
Oh God.
So I was so nervous because I didn't know where I was going. They're like, David, we walk into this, it's a bookstore. So we walk in, I'm like, oh, there's a bookstore, this is cool. And then there's steps that go upstairs, and then there's a bar and lounge area.
Wow.
And they're like, David, the owner of this place likes men. And I'm like, okay. And they're like, he's a man too. Like,
he's a man too.
So I'm like, okay. So I think they were just opening up the door for me to be like, oh, I'm gay too, and we're okay about it. And they were like, they let people that like the same sex come and feel accepted here and be free to be who they are. But I was so nervous, I couldn't tell them.
Well, again, and you don't know what their motivation is. Is their motivation is to trick you into admitting that you're gay so they can beat you up?
It's scary. No, it's
Or-
scary.
That's what I was thinking. I was
Yeah,
thinking,
right.
wow.
Or were they acceptant and showing you, that could go either way. That could definitely go either way.
I actually know of where you went, because there may be more places now, but 5 years ago, that was probably one of the only places you could go to, that bookstore cafe, they called it, and club.
Yes, but I'm so grateful for them, because they just wanted me to feel comfortable and
Well, nice.
accepted.
That's very cool. That's very cool.
And then I remember when my brother's wife came here from Jordan, we were talking, and I said to her, I was like, I want to tell you something, because she was like, I have a couple of girlfriends, they're interested in you, they want to get to know you. Are you interested? I said,
Forget about it.
I'm not really interested because I'm gay. She's like, oh, you are? I was like, yes. She goes, okay, live your life. She goes, do you? There's nothing to, be ashamed about. She goes,
Where was this?
Huh?
Where was this?
And when she came here, this was in 2016 in
Okay,
September.
and who was that again?
My brother's wife. That's
Your
from Jordan.
brother's wife
Yeah, very
from
close
Jordan.
family.
Yeah.
From Jordan. So she came here from Jordan and was acceptant of it.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Now,
That's very
within
cool.
the Middle East, I mean, Jordan is supposed to be probably one of the most lenient places. I think, what was it recently in Iraq? The brother of a boy who was gay, everyone knows this terrible shit, beheaded him.
It's so sad. It breaks my heart.
So sad, but this kind of stuff is going on in a lot of Middle Eastern countries. Jordan is considered to be more understanding, more open. I think it's got to do with who's running the country. You would know better than I.
I think you're right. It is more lenient, but it's still against, because Jordan is another Muslim country, so it's run by religion, and it's against the religion any acts of gay, so they're not accepted, but they're not as harsh as they are towards other people in other Middle Eastern countries.
Right.
So I hope that this will all change, and I think change is happening in the world.
I do too.
And it's like the publisher Austin McCauley that published my book also has a publishing office in Dubai. So I was speaking to them, I was like, do you think I could get published there? Like have my book published in Dubai? And they're like, well, we'll see. We'll try to figure something out. But, Dubai is another Muslim country, and it's very, it's going against their beliefs.
Right.
So that's the tricky part. But I feel that change is on its way. And
it is. I agree. Again, and change is not something that happens overnight, and especially when it's rooted in religious doctrine, and that religion is the one that's running the country. That's not something that is going to happen quickly. But just like your sister-in-law in Jordan coming over and freely, accepting you for who you are, that's huge. That's a huge step in the right direction.
And in Jordan itself, I mean, they started to change policy somewhat in 1951, but even in terms of now, the younger ones, I'm talking people in their 20s, there's now more filmmakers, performers, musical people that are LGBTQ, and they are okay with saying that. Again, it's courageous. Not perfect, but what we're all saying here is, yes, there's hope. That things are going to change. And you know what, Jordan, as an example, may be a pivotal country where we're going to see it first.
I believe that too. I feel that way sometimes. I think Jordan is going to be the example that's going to be set aside for the other countries in the Middle East.
Yeah.
And what's interesting to me about the Bible or the Quran or whatever it is that we preach, it says that there's only one God, and he's the only one that could judge us. So I don't understand why people have such a hard time letting that be.
I
You don't
agree.
have to worry about me or the cross that I carry. Just worry about you. God will judge you. God will judge me. And who cares about who I sleep with? You're not with me. So why does it matter?
Absolutely.
But within the Bible, they have proven throughout history, in every religion, there is such a reinterpretation. And, certainly in Catholicism and other religions that are based on those beliefs, they lost so many people. Now you're getting there's more moderation within that, like the Methodist, what's going on in the Methodist church right now to bring people back. I think, this discussion here, religion as a whole is, I'm praying, right, that is more open and trying to base it on, yes, there is one God. And you know what? God loves all of us.
Yes. I mentioned in my book, I said, when people are born deaf, they're born deaf. It's not the devil. People are born with Down syndrome. People are born with no sight. People are born gay. They're just born this way. It's not a choice. Why would you choose to live a life of like? Why would you want to be ostracized and have all this negative hate and like? It's just, it breaks my heart, especially with the trans community, with like all the things that they go through and the killings that are happening. Like,
awful.
It's just so sad. It's like awful. I'm like, why do people? And I honestly feel like people that have the biggest problem are probably gay themselves.
Yep, absolutely.
Often.
The ones that have a problem with it, that's for sure. You're watching If These Walls Could Talk with your hosts, Wendy Stuart and Tym Moss, and our incredible guest, Mr. David Rabadi, and his new book, How I Lost My Mind and Found Myself. I love that, and I'm loving this discussion. And just real quick, we've got a lot of comments that are coming in.
Tim can see without glasses. I can't. Oh, we have a lot of comments. Oh my goodness.
My friend John Borges from Phoenix, Arizona says hello to everyone. That we're all looking great. I love that. Manny Hernandez. He's one of the organizers of One Bronx Pride Festival. I am performing this Friday at One Bronx, and he asked for me to promote that. So
there you go. This Friday,
so
Tym Moss, Bronx Pride.
in the South Bronx. It's at Alexander Avenue and between Alexander and 134th Street, I think. So come out to the Bronx in the early afternoon. I think I go on at about 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Apollo Cabrera said, "Good show."
John Jigan Griffith Attil says, thank you for introducing me to David Rabadi. Curious to explore his book, knew nothing of this. How I Lost My Mind and Found Myself. This is a great conversation. Thank you.
Oh my God, that's great.
And my good friend from Indianapolis, Jenny Bookwalder, says, oh, I like that slow educator when you were mentioning about the about the teacher.
Very, very cool.
Yes. And John also says, Wendy, I'm a United Methodist, openly gay pastor. Love to hear you talk about Methodist. Made me smile. Hearing you say Methodist was the best thing that happened to my denomination in a very long time.
So is this a friend of yours, John?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to be getting in touch with you. I also do an LGBTQ show where I feature, you too, David. These are the subjects that my co-host on that show, Stephen Teague, and we love talking about this. I'll be in touch with everybody. Thank you. Thank you, John, for tuning in today.
And my good friend Rick Cook from Indiana says, hello, Tim, Wendy, and David.
Yay.
First, loving the show.
Thank you, Rick Cook, for tuning in. God. If we were live, I would be going through the audience, giving out little gifts and things, goodie bags and stuff, But
now one question I have for you. When you were growing, firstly, you started your life in Jordan, and then your family came to the United States. Is that right?
No, my parents got married in 1969 and had 3 kids, and then came to America from Jordan in 1974.
Wow.
And
then I was born in 1979.
So you were born here in the United States into a Jordanian family which had that culture. So you were born into the culture. So as you were growing up here in the United States, did you see or encounter the gay community? And how did that work with you?
I didn't know about LGBT center or anything like that, and I lived a very sheltered life for a long time. But the interesting thing is, I had family when I was a teenager that came to visit, and me and like the son of the family member would fool around. So it was like, it was interesting because I didn't have and he didn't identify as gay. Like, and he's now married with kids, and I'm like, okay.
You're hitting a good point, but keep going. I know what you're going to say. Yeah, I know what you're going to say.
So it was interesting, even though I wasn't exposed to like people in general or like on my own trying to find out. It happened for me without me looking for it. Like I got to connect with someone that had the same interests but didn't identify as it.
Right. But again, you had this experience that made you happy, made you joyful.
Yes.
But then everybody, I'm sure, was probably trying to arrange that, oh, I know this girl that I think you would be perfect for you and all of that. And you just have no interest in that.
I would now when I have like people in the Arab community, like the older generation, when you gonna get married? I said, like, when you gonna get married to a woman? I'm like, the oven doesn't work anymore. Like I tell them, meaning my sexual drive is not there anymore. So I'm like, the oven's broken. I was like, I can't get married, I can't have kids. So it's like, I'm like, I'm gay. Like, why do you bring this up? Like, I came out to everyone. Right. And
very brave.
Like, I was on Channel 12 News. They were like, distort man walking highway. And then one of the doctors was a relative that came to visit me in the psych ward. So he was like, David, you've always been a good kid. You've never had any problems. And you're going to be okay. Just give it time. And he was right. Within time, I became okay.
Well, I think hearing that support means everything. I want to backtrack a little bit here. The gentleman you had the experience with, you said, ended up getting married and having kids and everything.
Yeah.
So you find, this is something I find in other cultures, that there is a lot of that person could be gay, but would never, ever admit to it. And they turn around and say, I'm just fooling around. I'm not gay. I'm just fooling around.
Along that line, my experiences, I have had Arab men, and again, I hope I'm not dropping huge bombs or anything, but
bombs, Tim Moss.
But I've had Arab men also who have had sex with me on a regular basis. It was like I was their girl for what is the thing on the side?
Yeah, you were the sideline.
And they would always tell me that it is a sin. Or that it's okay for two men to have sex as long as they don't talk about it.
Right.
within and every one of them said that same thing. Right. Said the same thing, that as long as it's not talked about or it's not known, it's okay.
Well, the interesting thing is, the person that I was fooling around with, and he goes to me when he got married. He goes, and I had came out of the closet. He goes, didn't you think about your parents? Didn't you think about what that would have to do to them? And I'm like, is this guy freaking serious right now? Like, you're living a life of complete deceit. You're marrying someone and you're probably more gay than straight, and you're just gonna cheat on this person and live a deceitful life and not be honest with who you are. I'd rather my parents know who I am as a person and what I stand for than to live a lie.
But there you go, David. We're calling it out here. Sometimes the culture and the pull of the culture is bigger than what the drive of the human being is. And you're right. They have, for them, they have no choice but to live the lie.
Yeah.
That's how they can live.
I can relate to so much of your life experience. I grew up in the Midwest in the 60s and the 70s. And at that time, there was no mention of gay or homosexuality in society, in that society. We had, and I couldn't figure out why I liked men. I thought I was crazy. And we had to seek each other out, usually in the downtown areas, in the seediest parts of town, next to the adult bookstores, just so we could find each other. and
Wow.
and we could not tell anybody. We couldn't tell our family. We couldn't tell. And then in the 70s into the early 80s, that's when we started to come out a little bit more into society. And we discovered that, oh, there's somebody that works at the post office that's gay. Oh, this guy is a policeman. Oh, this one is, like, we were everywhere.
Right.
That, and it slowly started that, to where we did start eventually stepping out into society. And I just want to thank you for your courage to come out under such conditions, because I know that could not have been easy. And that what you did is a ripple effect that can help to start that change. And
well, I'm actually, it was weird, but it wasn't until someone said to me, I'm the first Jordanian to come out publicly in Westchester, in the Arab community here in Westchester.
Wow.
Yeah.
And this is going back 12 years. But she said to me, she goes, you know, David, they needed an example, and what better person than you? And now I feel like a lot of people talk to me, or they confide in me in the Arab community, and they tell me that they want to come out, but they're just still in fear because
absolutely.
I'm very fortunate enough that I found acceptance and love from my family and my friends. That's what I feared. But even though, like, to this day, my dad verbally doesn't accept it, but we see each other, we hang out. I know he accepts me, but verbally, he was like, why can't you get married to a woman and do that on the side? I was like, is this
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
But again, you know, we're talking about Middle Eastern culture, very male-dominated cultures.
Right.
Male-dominated. And that is such an honest remark that your dad made, because that's acceptable to him, you know? And
anything but the shame of being gay. And I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
Life is life, and I would rather live my truth. There was a poem I wrote in the beginning of the book, and at the end it said I had a choice to make: live to be myself or die as someone else. And I decided to live to be myself.
That's the courage I'm talking about. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for that.
I want to talk. Now, you have one more quote. The sentence for being gay in Arab is death, even when the punishment is self-inflicted. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Well, I have found out, like, when I've done research, there are people that have committed suicide because they couldn't bear the pain or the shame that comes with causing being found out that you're gay. And it just made it so sad, and I started to realize, like, in the Middle East, that people are jailed and even killed for it, right?
Absolutely.
So I thought, wow, it's so crazy how, like, even if they don't get jailed or killed by the government or whoever or is in charge, they commit suicide because they can't deal with the pain.
Yeah. And again, there is so much pain and so much depth of pain under those circumstances when you feel like you're the only one in the world and that you're all alone and nobody else understands or feels the same way under a society that thinks like that's been taught to think that way. And you feel like you're doing something wrong when you follow your heart.
Yeah.
I know that. And I remember saying to my mom one day, I said, look, I'm going to touch your hand. I said, do you feel me touching your hand? She said, yes. I said, that's what it is for me to be gay. It's something I feel. It's something that happens.
Oh, brilliant, David. Wow. Right.
I said, it's like,
it's a feeling.
It's just a feeling that happens. I was like, I wish that I could be straight and live a heterosexual life, but that's not me. That's not who I am, and it's not my truth. This is my truth. And then my mom was like, I've accepted you. You've convinced me. I believe that you are born this way. She goes, but you have to understand, your dad may feel that his colleagues or people that he's friends with will feel like he wasn't a good parent.
Right.
Yeah.
It's very, very complicated. I'm curious, did you ever bring a significant other home to your parents?
Good question.
You know what's so funny? Like, I'm 42 and I still haven't. I've dated guys, but I haven't had like a serious relationship. And I think for the most part, in my 20s and 30s, I met a lot of great guys, but I wasn't ready, especially in my 20s.
Right.
And then like I was dealing with bipolar disorder. So there were a lot of things I was dealing with. And now I'm at a place where I'm opened and ready to meet someone.
Good for you.
If it
For
happens,
everybody, he's open and ready to meet somebody. He's right here, great-looking guy, and no, you got all the perks: intelligent, honest, sensitive, handsome.
Out.
This is it right here on If These Walls Could Talk.
There you go.
Thank you.
We could turn into a dating show.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you're watching If These Walls Could Talk with your host, Wendy Stuart Tym Moss, and our amazing, incredible guest, Mr. David Rabadi, with his book, How I Lost My Mind and Found Myself. Now, I would like to kind of go back to that night when you were walking down the middle of the highway, because I'm also spiritual. I'm not religious anymore, but I'm very spiritual as far as the universe, and that things happen for a reason. And I feel that you were protected, that you might have got roughed up a little bit by the police and put in the car, but they delivered you to where you needed to be at that time.
Brilliant. Absolutely.
And also just the fact that the medications and all of that pushed who you thought you were, pushed that out for you to be able to find yourself.
Yes.
It removed all of your previous identity and allowed you to step into your new, more authentic
You're saying
self.
Spiritually it was something that had to happen.
Yeah.
I'm with you there about being more spiritually than religious, and I really feel like I was being protected, and like it could have went south. It could have.
Oh God, yeah.
I could have been hit by a car and dead. Like,
right. You're here for a reason.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. I know where you were walking. You live near the Major Deacon. You know what it looks like? The Cross County Parkway, up where he was walking down the median in the middle. Exactly like it. That is like the Indy 500. And for a person to be in the middle of that, it is a miracle that we are all here having this conversation in many, many ways.
Yes. I feel so grateful to be alive and to be able to share my story. And when I look back at it, if I never taken Adderall, I probably would have never come out as soon as I did. Maybe I would have came out maybe now, but it was interesting that everything does happen for a reason, and I am here for a purpose. And I feel it's to share my story and to fight the stigma and have more self-awareness and self-acceptance and self-love.
And be able to share that. The brilliant thing is it's not only the self, David, it's what you're a speaker. You're taking this out there and giving it to other people. And you know what? That's the most valuable gift anybody can do.
Because there are young kids across this country, young trans, gay, lesbian, that are struggling with those issues with their parents. And just, they need to hear your story. And you will help to change lives, to give kids courage. Like you were saying, that there were a lot of kids that would want to speak to you on the side because they don't have someone that they can confide in or talk to. So to hear your story is very important. It really is. And it will help to change lives, the course of people's lives. So that's a wonderful thing.
That's what I'm aiming for, and that's what I hope for.
David, you, as well as us, you're an interviewer. You work for Splash Mags, and you interview people in the range of entertainment, filmmakers. Tell us about like some of your most interesting interviews, what you look for in an interview.
Well, one of my interesting interviews was with Mike Ruiz, the photographer.
Oh, Mike,
Yeah, he was so open and honest, and he was so easy to interview. And sometimes some people that you interview have a certain agenda that they want, or to be certain questions that they want to be asked, and they kind of want to have control over how it goes. But then some people don't care, and they're just like an open book. So I like those interviews that will help people, will give people some insight on what it is,
absolutely,
who they are. Hello?
Yeah, can you hear us?
Okay. So and then I interviewed Fran Drescher. That was another fun interview.
Wait, okay, I got to stop you right there. I love Fran Drescher to death. She's incredibly honest. She's as funny and as honest in an interview.
Yeah, she's just a doll. Like it was so refreshing to interview her, and it was interesting because it was about the time when her ex-husband came out as gay.
Yeah.
So, but she says she just wanted him to live his truth and he'd be happy. So that was it's nice that she can have her support, because some people will just turn their back or feel hurt or like take it so personal that it's like judgmental. So to know that she supports him and is his friend is beautiful.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, that's it. He's her best friend.
Yeah, I had interviewed her. She's absolutely wonderful. And that was about the time with the Cancer Schmancer.
Yeah.
We came out with that. Yeah.
So, but you know what's the interesting thing for Splash Mags? When I first started with them, this is like 13 or 14 years ago, they sent me to New York Fashion Week, and they're like, write about the shows. So I'm there, and I'm like looking at the shows, and they're pretty and they're fun, but I was like, I don't want to write about a show. That's boring to me. I was like, I want to interview somebody. So I saw Nigel Barker, the photographer, and I said, hey, Nigel, do you mind if we do a Q&A for Splash Magazine? He's like, sure, just speak to my publicist. So I turned to his publicist. I said, when can I speak with him? She pulls out his calendar. 2 days later, back at Fashion Week, I go to interview him. So then when I had to submit my article, I was like, this is not what you requested, but what you wanted was a little boring. So I decided to just do a Q&A with Nigel Barker. Is that acceptable? And then they loved the article. They're like, yes.
Cool. Good.
So if that's what you want to do for us, then great. Because to me, it's like a give and take when you interview someone. But when you're writing about something, it's like, it's not so much, it's just your idea or your thoughts. But I like the interaction between a Q&A with people.
Right. There's a difference between when you're an observer and you're watching things and writing about it than when you're actually in an exchange with someone. Yeah.
I'm curious. You interviewed Alex Liu. He did the documentary Sexplanation.
Yes.
I'm bringing this up because he is from an Asian background with, I'm pretty sure, probably very traditional parents, but he came out with this film Sexplanation. Did he, during the interview, talk about the challenges with family and doing a film like that?
He did, and he said that he got the support of his family, but that was his struggle, because how they react to it. Right. And he was very fortunate that his parents are very educated too. So he's very fortunate to have had a good coming out, because most coming out stories are not.
Right. Yeah. You just brought up a really good point. So David, what's next on the horizon for you?
Well, you know, a lot of people have been telling me that the book is so good, they think it would make a great movie. So I was thinking about writing it, or maybe collaborating with a screenwriter and turning it into a screenplay.
Yeah.
Excellent. I love it.
Yeah. And its message is important too. You know, there's not enough, I don't think there's enough films out that deal with the narrative of mental illness. You know, every now and then you, like Girl Interrupted, you've got some great ones you can think of, but so many people in our society now really need to talk about this. And certainly, David, this pandemic, I always say, how can anyone ever go back to who they were before, or what that normal was? Me personally, I've been so impacted by it in such an incredible way. I want to be this person that I am now. I want to feel as deeply as I feel, because the day they shut New York down was the day I lost trust in anything. What could I trust after that? All of a sudden, the world shut down. None of us experienced anything like that.
I know it's been such a crazy, and it went by so quickly too. Like I remember thinking, like, what is happening in this world right now? Like, how could this even be possible? And I lost a lot of trust in certain things and certain people. And, you know, we believe in these leaders and we want to feel that they're here for us. But sometimes you think like people have their own set agenda, and it's not really for your purpose.
Right. And you know what? I'll take it back to your book, How I Lost My Mind and Found Myself. You're here for you. You're here for you. I'm here for me. And that's what I learned.
And I've also learned too that family isn't always necessarily blood. And especially in the
Right,
gay
yeah,
community,
yeah.
in the gay community,
Absolutely.
we have our chosen family that we've chosen. And I've got wonderful brothers and sisters and in my family. So,
Yeah.
but just some of the,
We got nice stuff. on
yeah,
there.
Ronaldo Rivera from the Bronx says, good afternoon for everyone. Teresa Sabin says, have a wonderful
Love
day.
Teresa.
She says, have a wonderful day, everyone. My friend Jenny Bookwalder says, oh, when I was talking about Indiana and growing up there, she says, good old Indiana. And she loves Fran Drescher. Tiara says, hello, babies. And Tiara says, shared. So,
And Evan Lawrence checked in earlier.
Evan Lawrence, we
loyal
love Evan
fan,
Lawrence.
incredible designer, human being, performer,
Gay.
big supporter of our show. Hello, Evan. Oh, we should find out how people get the book.
Yes.
So people can go to barnesandnoble.com or amazon.com and look for the title How I Lost My Mind and Found Myself by David Rabadi. And that's how you can purchase the book. Or you can go to the Austin Macaulay website, whichever you prefer.
Or you have a website.
Yeah.
I totally forgot about my website.
And there it is.
DavidRabadi.com.
Chauncey's the best. You
Yes.
don't have to worry. If you forget it, we'll fill
Yeah,
in the
well,
blanks right here for you,
We
David.
got your back.
Okay, so David Rabadi,
DavidRabadi.com.
You can get
And
the book
also
there.
Jed Ryan just chimed in and said,
Love
hello,
Jed,
everyone.
yeah.
Jed Ryan is amazing. We
Jed,
love Jed.
again, we have such an incredible community. Jed is
Yeah.
going to be on Triversity Talk, my other show tomorrow night, and we're going to hear all about Jed.
And now David is part of our community as well.
That's right. We're all we
Thank
all
you.
feel the love here.
Yeah.
If possible, just because you're local, I'm going to put a little pressure on you. Tim's show is on the 20th.
Yeah,
Love to have a
we-
drink with you at PANGEA if you want to come into the city that night. Love to meet you in person.
I'll get you the information for
Yes.
I'm doing June 20th here at PANGEA. I'm doing my cabaret show. And on the 24th, we're having a movie night where you can watch from home and see me in the movie I star in,
Yes.
which is called Junk. We're having
Yes,
it's a
yes.
thing. Everybody can tune in and watch it. So I'll get you the information to both.
Yes, send me that information. I would love to come.
Totally.
Well, this is If These Walls Could Talk with your hosts, Wendy Stuart and Tym Moss, and our just amazing friend, our amazing friend and guest, David Rabadi. We just want to say thank you so very much.
Thank you, David.
Is there anything you want to say or leave us with? Any words of wisdom or not?
Just words of wisdom is to be kind to yourself and be patient with yourself. And
Absolutely.
everything pans out. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Thank you very much.
Mwah.
Mwah. Happy Pride.
Happy
Happy
Pride.
Pride. Bye.